Have you wondered lately why hybrid cars are gaining ground and even surpassing pure electric ones in the preferences of many consumers? Stick with us, because in this video we're going to unravel the reasons behind this phenomenon that, at first glance, might seem contradictory. When people hear about the future of sustainable mobility, most think of electric vehicles. But the reality of the market shows us that hybrids have important advantages that are setting the trend in today's automotive landscape. Electric cars have been promoted for years as the ultimate solution to pollution and the cost of fossil fuels. If you check the headlines, ads, and the rhetoric from the big companies in the industry, it seems like we should all be driving vehicles. However, the average consumer, faced with the reality of everyday life, is turning their attention to hybrids. 100% electric. However, the average consumer, faced with the reality of everyday life, is turning their attention to hybrids. These vehicles are halfway between the past, which is based on internal combustion, and the fully electric future. Why is this happening? Why would someone with an eco-conscious mindset and a desire to save on fuel choose a hybrid instead of a pure electric? Number 1. The rise of electric vehicles and the unfulfilled promise. We've been hearing for years that electric cars would be the answer to many of the problems of modern transportation. Air pollution, dependence on oil, noise in cities, and expensive maintenance. Manufacturers, governments, and sustainability advocates have strongly supported this vision, pushing for regulations and tax incentives to get more people to adopt electric mobility. But if electric cars are so great, why haven't they taken off at the pace that many expected? The original idea was that as batteries became cheaper and more capable, and charging stations multiplied, the market would be flooded with electric vehicles. This vision included a sharp reduction in emissions of CO and other pollutants, less noise on the streets, and a future where cars no longer depend on gasoline. Although progress has been made in many regions, the reality is that the number of pure electric vehicles is still small compared to the total vehicle fleet. One of the main obstacles has been the lack of adequate charging infrastructure. For an electric car to be truly practical, users need to be certain that they will be able to recharge their vehicle without any problems, both at home and on the road, without a reliable and extensive network of fast charging points. Electric vehicles are becoming a risky option, especially for long trips or when there is no garage with an electrical outlet. In many countries, public infrastructure is still in its infancy, which fuels buyer anxiety and slows down mass adoption. Another challenge has been the time it takes for batteries to recharge. Even though there are fast chargers, they still don't compare to the speed of filling up a gas tank in just a few minutes. This means that users have to plan their routes better. Schedules and downtime, something that many are not willing to do. Modern life demands immediacy, and that's where electric cars lose some points. While there are markets where the government subsidizes the purchase of electric cars, these incentives are not always permanent or uniform. When demand grows or the political situation changes, subsidies can be reduced or disappear, impacting the final price for consumers. Also, the production of batteries, which is one of the most expensive components, hasn't yet achieved enough economies of scale to bring prices down to levels comparable to those of conventional cars. Number 2. The appeal of hybrids. Flexibility and autonomy. What makes consumers look at hybrid cars with a favorable view even more than pure electric ones? The answer lies in their hybrid nature. By combining an internal combustion engine with an electric one, it offers the best of both worlds and eases the common fears associated with electric mobility. Pure hybrid vehicles serve as a sort of middle ground. For those who don't yet feel ready to make the leap to a fully electric vehicle, a hybrid is an attractive option. It allows them to get used to quiet driving, fuel savings, and reduced emissions, without giving up the assurance of having a gasoline engine to back up the vehicle's range. This smooth transition helps many drivers gain confidence in new technologies. One of the biggest fears for potential electric vehicle buyers is what's known as range anxiety. It's the worry of running out of power in the middle of a trip, far from a charging station. With a hybrid, this problem practically disappears, since the gasoline engine kicks in when the battery runs out, allowing you to keep driving without any hiccups. This way, the user doesn't rely on an extensive charging network and can use the vehicle much like a traditional car, with the advantage of much lower fuel consumption. While electric mobility largely depends on a robust charging infrastructure, hybrids can work perfectly in the current context, where gas stations are still the norm. The user doesn't have to radically change their habits. When the battery runs out, it switches to gasoline. This makes hybrids easy to adopt, even in markets where electric charging infrastructure is almost non-existent. Although hybrids are still more expensive than conventional cars, they are usually more economical than many electric cars, pure electric ones. Additionally, because their batteries are smaller and do not require the same technological complexity, their maintenance can be less expensive. On the other hand, by reducing fuel consumption, operating costs are kept low, resulting in a more balanced price-quality ratio in the short and medium term. Finally, many consumers find hybrids a more realistic solution to their needs. The average consumer, not having to drastically change their habits, sees hybrids as a friendly and transitional technology. This, along with the fact that hybrids have been on the market for years and have proven their reliability, boosts the confidence of those considering a more sustainable option without extreme risks. Number 3. Charging infrastructure. The big bottleneck. The charging infrastructure is the Achilles heel of electric mobility. For an electric car to be truly practical, it's not enough for its technical specifications to be impressive. It's also essential to have a wide and reliable network of chargers. This is where promises and reality diverge. In many countries, fast and medium-level charging stations are still scarce. This means that even if you have an electric car with good range, you have to carefully plan your routes and charging times, something that not everyone is willing to do. Also, the charging power varies a lot, and the time you need to complete a charge can stretch out if you only find slow chargers. Uneven distribution of infrastructure is another problem. In large cities, where the population is denser, there are usually more chargers. But in rural areas or on long highways, the situation is much more precarious. This disparity seriously limits electric mobility to certain environments, making its expansion at national or regional level difficult. For many potential buyers, the idea of not being able to get away from major cities without risking being stranded. It's a decisive factor against it. For electric mobility to take off, massive investment and infrastructure is needed, both public and private. Governments play a crucial role. They must offer incentives, facilities, and clear regulations that encourage the development of charging points. However, bureaucracy, lack of coordination, and resistance from some sectors are slowing down the expansion of these networks. Until there's an infrastructure as widespread as gas stations, users will continue to view electric vehicles with skepticism. This is where hybrids shine. Their ability to run on gasoline when the battery runs out makes them immune to the current issues with charging infrastructure. While an electric vehicle driver must worry about finding a charging point and waiting the time needed to complete the recharge, the owner of a hybrid can simply stop at a conventional gas station. This factor of independence and security is crucial in the buying decision. While we all hope that infrastructure will improve over time, and it likely will, today's consumer has immediate needs. Not everyone can afford to wait for the electric charging network to develop into something widespread. Hybrids then become the best solution for the present. They offer fuel savings, reduced emissions, and a step towards electromobility, without forcing the user to rely on infrastructure. Still in growth phase number 4, battery technology and its impact on electric vehicles. Batteries represent the core of electric mobility. They are the most expensive and delicate component, determining the range, charging time, and a big part of the total cost of the vehicle. While technology has advanced tremendously in the last decade, there are still significant challenges that have slowed down the mass adoption of electric vehicles. 100% electric. While lithium-ion batteries have improved in capacity, the range of many electric vehicles remains a sensitive issue. To match the comfort of a combustion engine car, an electric vehicle needs large, expensive, and heavy batteries. This drives up the initial cost of the vehicle and makes its production more expensive. Despite the improvements, not all models offer ranges equivalent to a gasoline car with a full tank, especially under real driving conditions like weather, air conditioning use, speed, and so on. Another problem is degradation over time. Although batteries have improved in durability, their ability to hold a charge decreases after several years of use. This affects the resale value and the perception of the total cost of ownership. A cautious buyer might hesitate to invest in an electric vehicle if they're worried about its battery. After a certain amount of time, it loses effectiveness and requires a very expensive replacement. Electric vehicle batteries rely on materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, which are not only expensive but also raise environmental and social concerns regarding their extraction. The dependence on these materials creates uncertainty about future costs and the scalability of large-scale battery production. In addition, the environmental footprint of the extraction and processing of these materials. It raises doubts about the real sustainability of electromobility if it is carried out without adequate control and regulations. This is where hybrids have the edge. By combining electric propulsion with an internal combustion engine, their batteries can be smaller and less complex. This reduces both the cost and the risk of accelerated degradation. In addition, the reduced reliance on a high-capacity battery removes some of the pressure on the supply chain for critical materials. In other words, hybrids benefit from electric technology without all of its problems. There is a lot of talk about solid-state batteries, which promise higher energy density, faster charging times, and less degradation, but they are technologies still in development. While we wait for these promises to be fulfilled, hybrid cars continue to offer a practical and balanced alternative, taking advantage of current advancements without being limited by the technological shortcomings still present in the realm of pure electric vehicles. Number 5. Initial costs and barriers to market entry. The cost issue is crucial when it comes to choosing a new vehicle. Although in the long run, an electric car can be more economical in terms of maintenance and energy consumption, the purchase price remains a major hurdle for many buyers. Electric vehicles are typically more expensive due to the cost of their batteries and relatively limited production compared to the automotive industry. If we compare the initial price of an electric vehicle with a hybrid or even a gasoline-powered one, the electric one is often more expensive. This price difference is enough for a buyer to opt for a hybrid, which, although not as economical as a 100% conventional car, offers a more acceptable balance between initial cost and future savings. The electric vehicle industry still hasn't reached the economies of scale that combustion vehicle manufacturers enjoy. In addition, the range of electric models remains limited, making price competition difficult. As more manufacturers jump on the electric mobility bandwagon, prices are likely to drop. But until that happens, price-sensitive consumers will find hybrids to be a more budget-friendly option. In many countries, the purchase of electric vehicles is encouraged by government incentives, direct subsidies, tax exemptions, free parking, or access to exclusive lanes. However, these incentives often change over time and depend on political will and state budgets. When a buyer cannot count on these benefits to continue, the economic appeal of electric can fade, increasing uncertainty. Although electric cars have fewer moving parts and theoretically require less maintenance, the cost of repairing or replacing complex components, such as batteries, is still high. Hybrids, by having known combustion systems combined with the electrical part, have greater availability of spare parts and trained technicians, which, at least for now, reduces uncertainty in the area of maintenance. Until electric vehicles can reduce their manufacturing costs and increase their range, hybrids will continue to be the most logical choice for many buyers. These vehicles combine significant fuel savings with a lower initial cost than most electric cars, while also providing greater peace of mind in terms of range and maintenance. That's why it's no surprise that hybrids are outpacing electric vehicles, at least at this stage, while we wait for the technology and prices of electric cars to align with market expectations. So, the economic factor strengthens the advantageous position of hybrids in the global market.